Massive news from DC Studios. Co-CEOs James Gunn and Safran are making shockwaves as they've begun their culling of the DC IPs in their efforts to completely reboot the DC universe. The Hollywood Reporter, which is one of the top news sources, has released an article about Wonder Woman 3 and the state of the DC universe. Most of the characters that we have come to associate with the DCEU and the Snyderverse are coming to an end. James Gunn then came out and released a statement, all by confirming the hardcore changes happening to the studio. The article headline reads, Patty Jenkins, Wonder Woman 3 not moving forward as DC movies hit turning point. In the article, they elaborate that multiple sources tell the Hollywood Reporter that Patty Jenkins' Wonder Woman 3 is not moving forward and is considered dead in its current incarnation. They go on to say that Patty Jenkins has co-written a script with Geoff Johns and turned it into WB and DC heads. Then they told her that her treatment doesn't fit into the narrative they're trying to tell, referring of course to Gunn and Safran's multi-year plan. Look guys, Gal Gadot's first Wonder Woman film was really good, one of the better ones in the DCEU that not only surprised people but also gave the fans something to look forward to. Then the sequel happened, poor direction, the writing was a mess, and I'm not saying it's the worst thing in the world, but it kinda killed the momentum for a lot of people. In any case, it's a step back from the first to be sure. This news comes right after Gal Gadot posted a tweet about the next chapter in her role as Wonder Woman. Her tweet reads, a few years ago it was announced that I was going to play Wonder Woman. I've been so grateful for the opportunity to play such an incredible character, and more than anything I'm grateful for you, the fans. I can't wait to share her next chapter with you. Look, it was either she wasn't in on the status of her own film, or this is her campaigning for fan support so she can keep playing as a character. Initially I thought this was just a script issue, and Patty Jenkins co-writing with Geoff Johns is not doing her any favors. He's had some good stories in the past, but working with someone of his reputation, especially in the entertainment comic book industry, is quite baffling. Gunn and Safran definitely would have been aware of it and probably wanted nothing to do with him, leading to their script being scrapped. But a recent article tries to clear up what really happened with Patty Jenkins and WB, saying Warner Brothers didn't cancel Wonder Woman 3, Patty Jenkins walked off the project. In the article, they talk about how she was given directive to rewrite the script, but she didn't want to compromise her vision for the character, so she walks off the project entirely and will move on to her next movie, which is not a clue. It's apparent this article is just to clear up who broke up with who, but a key takeaway is that the studio wants Gadot to stay as Wonder Woman if she's willing to work without Jenkins. Does this mean Wonder Woman 3 isn't cancelled? We don't know for now. But on top of the treatment being subpar to new DC plans, the article goes on to say that although costs are not a factor, according to insiders, Gadot was on track for a $20 million payday for Wonder Woman 3, while Jenkins would have received $12 million. That's $32 million right off the bat, and that's not even including other costs for actors and VFX. At the end of the day, not making this movie would save the studio tens of millions of dollars. They wouldn't want to spend that amount of money on a movie that wouldn't turn a profit, as Wonder Woman 2 didn't have a good track record in terms of earning back money for the studio. So they're thinking they might not waste time on the project altogether. But it's unclear what their plans are for the character at this point. If they're sidelining one of DC's holy trinity, then they might have issues down the pipeline. This seems to be a teaser into the Gunn-Safran plan for DC moving forward. Going back to the article, Man of Steel 2 with Henry Cavill as Superman is unlikely to happen, not anymore. And to me, this is the biggest shocker of them all. Personally, being a huge Superman shill, this is the biggest blow so far, mainly because it was so good seeing him in Black Adam. Henry Cavill even made it public to say that he is back as Superman. Then, although there were reports that there wasn't any contracts made with DC, although the sequel to Man of Steel was in active development at that time, as specified in the article as well. At the time, he was not incorrect. Warner Brothers was indeed developing a sequel for 2013's Man of Steel and actively meeting with writers. Andy Muschietti, who directed Flash, even expressed interest in sitting behind the camera for something that would have brought a tone similar to the hopeful and heroic colors of the 1978 movie directed by Richard Donner. Andy Muschietti, reportedly doing an awesome job with Flash, wanted to have a go at the movie. We could have gotten a Donner-inspired Superman with Henry Cavill, or that Superman cameo by the end of Black Adam was just the old regime capitulating to Dwayne Johnson's demands. He said multiple times that he wanted a head-to-head between Superman and Black Adam, campaigned campaigning for years, and the OG heads of DC, right before heading out, agrees. It does say that Luca and Abdi did desire one last time with the old characters and seems to be planning exactly that, but James Gunn and Safran barely has their foot on the door at the time. They just had no control prior to those decisions being made, and now they apparently decided to go another way. Their ongoing plans does not seem to include any of the JL members in the Snyderverse, as the article goes on about the Flash movie, with Ezra Miller saying these characters are to cameo in Flash, the highly anticipated time travel adventure movie that is due to release June 16th. Cavill shot his part of the cameo in September, but sources say there is a debate inside the studio as whether or not to keep the cameo, and if its inclusion promises something that the studio would have no plans on delivering. Although Jason Momoa's Aquaman 2 is set to be released, it seems that the version of the character is getting sunsetted as well, and that will be the last movie for the actor. Although Jason Momoa himself doesn't seem to care. He came out talking about doing his dream project with DC and kind of hints that Gunn and Safran probably offered him another role within their new DC universe. Rumors are he was getting a part for Lobo. And speaking of obscure B-rate characters, the Black Adam sequel might not be happening. Despite the aggressive campaigning, the fact of the matter is that Black Adam wasn't much of a success commercially. Variety released an article that the movie is on track to lose money for the studio, and in response, Dwayne Johnson tweeted his own numbers to prove that his movie will make money. Most likely, it's a desperate move to show DC leadership that his brand is still lucrative to continue in the new DC universe. This would probably mean that we won't be seeing any of the Black Adam characters as well. One part of the Gunn-Safran agenda seems likely not to touch, at least for now, is the Matt Reeves Batman universe, in which Robert Pattinson dons the cowl of the Caped Crusader. Reeves is writing the sequel to The Batman, which opened in March 4. The filmmaker is also overseeing the launch of 2 Batman series that spin out of his movie, including The Penguin.
I got you! I got you!
Part of the plan could entail a truly fresh starring having no baggage from any previous regimes, as they set about resetting how DC movies and shows are made. That, however, doesn't take into account the possible success of movies such as Shazam! Fear of the Gods, on which Safran is a producer, and Blue Beetle. Would that plan include forging ahead without the actors who inhabit those characters and recast them even if those movies prove to be box office hits? Many are still wondering if the Gunn and Safran plan will turn out to be a complete reboot of the entire DC universe. If so, will they do the same for long-standing popular IPs like Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman, or will the new brand be built on top of B-list characters instead of the Holy Trinity, which is a possibility, especially with Gunn at the helm? He has shown affinity with B-list characters, and to his credit, he's able to handle them pretty well. He was able to popularize Guardians of the Galaxy over at Marvel, and he certainly was able to pull off the Suicide Squad and Peacemaker for DC. Question is, are these characters viable as the foundation for your entire universe? That was certainly the case for Marvel. Iron Man, Captain America, and Thor were B-list characters prior to the MCU era. They were popular comic book characters for sure, but are dwarfed next to IPs like the Hulk, Wolverine, and Spider-Man. But they actually pulled it off, and by the end of the first Avengers movie, they became household names. In contrast, DC already has great characters with decades worth of stories: Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Flash, Green Lantern, and Aquaman, just to name a few. These are top-tier mainstream assets, and will they prioritize the likes of Mr. Terrific, who's actually similar to Tony Stark, a genius-level intellect multimillionaire but with a more tragic background? Also, the question, our man Wildcat, Lobo, and Batmite, would you build the new DCU brand around them? James Gunn didn't provide any clarification, but instead responded on social media saying that they're gonna do everything in service of the story and of the characters themselves, so it can still go either way. He does say a little bit about his prioritization, saying Superman is the biggest priority for DC Studios in a reply to a fan, so it's a pretty safe bet that a Superman project will materialize within the new regime. However, if it's gonna be a Man of Steel sequel, or if it's Henry Cavill donning the cape, is still up in the air. As it currently stands, there's no forward momentum on a lot of these projects, while Gunn and Safran have been busy fine-tuning their 10-year plan for the DCU. No matter the case, everything may still change after the presentation this week. Let them do what needs to be done to make their vision a reality, so kick back and relax, sit on the couch, watch some Donner Superman to fill you with hope until Zaslav greenlits this thing and all hell breaks loose.